Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. It's spring break next week. I know a lot of you are getting some well-earned vacation. I hope everybody has a great time off. For today's DEI talk, I wanted to continue our Women's History Month discussion. I know in last week's talk, I mentioned several different some facts and kind of tidbits, if you will, and I actually got a very overwhelmingly positive response back from several of you that you enjoyed that and you wanted to see some more of it. So for today's talk, I really researched this week and I found 10 facts about Women's History Month that I think are really, really fascinating, and I wanted to share this with you today. So, all right, number one. In almost every country in the world, the life expectancy for women is higher than men. So for virtually all causes of death at all ages, mortality rates are higher for men. Here's what I found interesting is that scientists aren't entirely sure why this is the case, but there's been many studies that have shown that it might be due to the presence of estrogen in the body improving immune function. So again, really, really fascinating aspect. Yeah, in almost every country in the world, women have a higher life expectancy than men. The second one, more American women work in education, health services, and social assistance, those industries than any other. Women are increasingly entering the workforce in larger and larger numbers over the past 50 years. But but according to the research, they're still traditionally taking on positions like teaching, nursing, and social services. In fact, those three industries employ nearly 1/3 of all female workers in the U.S. So really, really kind of fascinating aspect. So, women often wrote under pen names in times when it was not seen as appropriate for them to contribute to literature. I know, historically, women, going back thousands of years, have always, had struggles with being able to publish and to write, and even for female authors who are very highly acclaimed today, they had to resort to fake names to be able to be taken seriously and to be able to contribute to the literature. Names like Jane Austen, the Bronte sisters, George Eliot, Louisa May Alcott, all really famous women authors, all wrote under pen names at some point because they were fearful that they would not be taken seriously. So again, it's great that we're into a point in our lives today where women's contribution to literature is still very, very relevant and continue to become more and more influential as time goes on. So that's a great thing. One of my favorite curious little points is that Marie Curie. I'm sure we've all heard about Marie Curie. She's the only person to ever win 2 Nobel Prizes. She was first awarded for physics with spontaneous radiation, and then she won a second for chemistry for radioactivity. So again, it's rare to win 1 Nobel Prize, but she actually won 2, and she was the only woman to ever have done so. So again, really, really remarkable woman. So. Kind of the fifth point. So you might think, so if I asked you to think about, what U.S. state has been the leader in women's rights, who's done more for women's rights than maybe a lot of other states, you might be tempted to say California, New York, Illinois. Would you believe it's Wyoming? Fascinated. Do you know the first female governor of a U.S. state was Wyoming Governor Nellie Taylor Ross, which she was elected in 1924. In addition to Wyoming being the first state with a woman governor, Wyoming was also the first state to give women the right to vote, enacting women's suffrages in 1869, many, many, many years before women actually attained the right to vote nationally. So, Wyoming you wouldn't think would be the leader of women's votes. It's actually one of the 2 smallest states in terms of population, but again, a very, very important state as far as women's suffrage. So really, really interesting. The first female member of a president's cabinet was Frances Perkins, who was FDR's Secretary of Labor. So again, with us being in HR, obviously, what comes out of the Labor Department is very relevant for us. But Ms. Perkins remained in the office during FDR all of his terms, and she helped put together the labor programs that made the New Deal successful. So again, she was one of those underrated, unheralded individuals who really made FDR's program successful in the 1930s and 1940s. So again, really, really one of those names that we all should really know. Did you know that Jeanette Rankin, who's a Republican from Montana, was the first woman elected to serve in Congress? She was elected in both 1916 and 1940, first woman elected to Congress. But she was a lifelong pacifist, and she was actually the only member of Congress, only one, to vote against entering World War II. So after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor and FDR asked Congress to declare war, Congress did declare war, but she was the only member of Congress who voted against U.S. entering the war because she was a lifelong pacifist. So again, really, really fascinating aspect. Um, Something really interesting. Did you know that wasn't until that up until 1974, women were not allowed to hold credit cards in their own name in the U.S. That year, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act of that year prevented lender discrimination based on gender and marital status, among other things. So really up until, so it's only been about, roughly 40 years that women have been allowed to hold credit cards in their own name. So again, you would think that that's something that's been, been able to happen for a while, but it's only been since 1974. So again, one of those laws that definitely helped bring more gender equality into our nation's forefront. Kind of the ninth point, the first woman to ever run for president. Anybody have any thoughts about who was the first woman to run for president? It was a young lady by the name of Victoria Woodhull in 1872. She actually, not only was she the first woman to ever run for president, but 4 years before that, she and her sister became the first female Wall Street brokers in 1868, just a few years after the Civil War ended. So again, Victoria Woodhull is another one of those very kind of almost forgotten heroes, if you will, in American history that I feel like everybody should know who she was. And so I was thinking about, so those are 9 kind of interesting facts. For my 10th one, I thought what would be interesting is, I'm like, what affects me every day? I wanted to think of something that really affected me, and I tried a couple things, but here's what I finally looked at. Earlier this week, we had a lot of rain. Even yesterday, I got poured on rain taking my kids to school, and my windshield wiper started kind of, acting, they were making, I need to get new windshield wipers, is what I'm trying to say. But I looked it up. Did you know that the windshield wiper was actually invented in 1903 by a woman named Mary Anderson? She was inspired after watching a New York City streetcar driver manually wipe snow off the car's windshield. So again, one of the many contributions that women have that we don't even think about, that how important is the windshield wiper whenever we're driving. It's critical, especially when it's raining or snowing. So again, we have Mary Anderson to thank for that. Well, those are my 10 facts for today. Again, hope everybody's doing well. Enjoy your time off if you're taking time off next week. Illinois plays tonight. I got my Illinois shirt ready to go, hoping we win the Big Ten tournament and hopefully get a #1 seed in the tournament. So, I'll be rooting for the Illini tonight. So, hope everyone's well. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.